You've been told fruit is always healthy, but what if one common fruit could quietly raise your stroke risk overnight? As a brain doctor, I'm shocked at how dangerous this could be, especially after 60. Find out why. Subscribe now so you don't miss out. Let's start with a fruit that almost everyone has in their kitchen right now. It's soft, sweet, and feels like one of the safest snacks out there: bananas. Now, you might be thinking, really? Bananas? But here's the twist. The way bananas affect your body changes as you age, especially after 60. The same banana that once gave you a quick energy boost could now be quietly working against you. Take Margaret, a retired librarian who always started her morning with a smoothie. 2 ripe bananas blended up with a bit of yogurt. It felt healthy, light, and easy to digest. But one morning, she woke up feeling dizzy, and her words weren't coming out clearly. At the hospital, doctors found that her blood pressure had spiked overnight, and her potassium levels were unusually high. She had a mild stroke. Turns out, those overripe bananas she was blending were packed with fast-digesting sugars and potassium, which her aging kidneys couldn't handle well anymore. Here's the catch. When bananas ripen, their starches break down into sugars. That's why they taste sweeter. But for seniors, that sugar spike, mixed with slower circulation and overnight dehydration, can quietly put pressure on the heart and brain. Margaret didn't need to give up bananas completely, just tweak how she ate them. She switched to slightly greener bananas, ate them with a little protein, and made sure she was hydrated before breakfast. Her energy returned and her blood pressure evened out. Sounds simple, right? But it made all the difference. And bananas are just the beginning. Wait until you hear what tiny fruit could be packing an even bigger punch. The tiny sweet snack that's not so innocent, grapes. Next up, grapes. Those bite-sized bursts of sweetness we often snack on without a second thought. But under that innocent skin is a surprising amount of sugar. Meet Evelyn, 79, a retired music teacher who loved her morning routine. Every day she'd sit by the window with a book and a bowl of grapes. 2 cups, sometimes more. One morning, as she wrote a birthday card to her grandson, her hand began to tremble. Minutes later, she struggled to finish the sentence. Her daughter rushed her to the hospital, where doctors confirmed she had experienced a mini stroke. What went wrong? Grapes are full of natural sugar, glucose and fructose that hit your bloodstream fast, especially if eaten on an empty stomach. And when you're older, your body doesn't manage sugar the way it used to. Insulin response slows, and fragile blood vessels are more vulnerable to sudden sugar spikes. Over time, those spikes cause small but repeated damage inside the arteries, microinflammation, tiny clots, and gradual weakening of circulation. It doesn't happen overnight, but one day the effects catch up. If you love grapes, here's what to do. Don't eat them by the bowl. Choose a small handful and pair them with a few almonds or a bit of cheese. Never eat them first thing in the morning or before bed. And if you're managing blood sugar or blood pressure, it's worth checking with your doctor. But if you think grapes are sneaky, wait until we talk about a tropical favorite that might be causing more than just a sugar rush. The tropical favorite that could backfire: pineapple. Let's talk about pineapple. Sweet, juicy, and often seen as a healthier dessert option. But for many older adults, it might be more of a risk than a reward. Take Clara, 77, a retired choir director. Instead of cookies or cake, she'd finish dinner with a few slices of fresh pineapple. It felt like a smart switch: natural sugar, low fat. But one morning, she woke up dizzy and off balance. Her daughter noticed her speech was slow and slurred. At the hospital, they found signs of a small stroke. But here's what made it unusual. Her blood sugar was high, her blood wasn't clotting properly, and scans showed signs of reduced oxygen flow during sleep. The pineapple surprisingly played a role. First, pineapple contains a powerful enzyme called bromelain. While helpful in small amounts, in larger doses, or when mixed with blood thinners, it can thin your blood too much, making your system less stable. Second, the fruit's sugar content is high and fast-absorbing. And if eaten after dinner, when your metabolism slows, it lingers in the bloodstream and puts pressure on your blood vessels. Lastly, pineapple is very acidic. For many people over 60, that acid can trigger silent reflux during the night. Even if you don't feel heartburn, tiny amounts of stomach acid can reach your airways while you sleep, lowering oxygen levels and stressing your brain. Pineapple isn't the enemy, but how and when you eat it matters. Enjoy it in the early afternoon, in small amounts, and not with blood-thinning medications unless your doctor gives the go-ahead. Still with me? Good, because the next fruit seems ultra-hydrating, but can actually dry out your system. The summer favorite that quietly drains you: watermelon. Now, here's a fruit almost everyone thinks is perfectly hydrating: watermelon. But if you're over 60, it may be giving you less help and more harm than you realize. Let's talk about Howard, an 82-year-old retired mailman who stayed active and paid attention to his diet. After dinner, especially during summer, he'd slice up 2 or 3 big wedges of watermelon. It felt like a smart choice: light, refreshing, and mostly water. But one morning, Howard felt lightheaded. As he tried to get out of bed, he collapsed. Doctors found that his blood was thickened, his pressure was low, and he was dehydrated, despite all that watermelon. What happened? Watermelon acts like a natural diuretic. It encourages your body to release water. That's usually not a big deal, but when you combine it with common medications like blood pressure pills that also remove fluid, it can tip the balance too far. Overnight, the body loses water without obvious symptoms. Your blood gets thicker, circulation slows, and clot risk rises, especially if your arteries are already narrow. Watermelon is still wonderful, but it needs to be timed right. Eat it earlier in the day, in smaller amounts, and pair it with something salty or electrolyte-rich to keep fluids balanced. Now let's look at a classic fruit that's praised for vitamin C, but could be quietly interfering with your medications. The morning habit that may be backfiring: oranges, orange juice, orange slices. That classic breakfast combo. But for some older adults, especially those on medications, citrus could be interfering with your health in unexpected ways. Meet Albert, 29, a retired bus driver. Every morning, he took his heart meds with a glass of fresh squeezed orange juice. It was part of his daily rhythm, his sunshine in a glass. But after months of feeling off balance, slightly foggy in the mornings, and one scary fall, doctors discovered he had experienced a minor stroke. His medication levels were too high, despite taking the correct doses. So what was going on? Citrus fruits, especially oranges and grapefruits, contain a compound called furanocoumarin. It sounds complex, but its effect is simple. It slows down your liver's ability to process certain medications. That means drugs meant to leave your system linger too long, increasing their effects, sometimes to dangerous levels. Blood pressure meds might drop your pressure too low. Cholesterol drugs might cause muscle pain or confusion. Blood thinners could become unpredictable, and it's not just juice. Even fresh fruit can have this effect. If you love the taste of citrus, try a small slice of lemon or lime in your water instead. And always ask your doctor about how citrus might interact with your prescriptions. But if you thought oranges were surprising, wait until you hear about a fruit that can have more sugar than a donut. The sweet surprise that packs a dangerous punch: mangoes. Last on our list is mango, sweet, soft, and often seen as a natural treat. But for older adults, it could be raising risks on multiple levels. William, 83, a retired firefighter, decided to clean up his diet. He swapped cookies for dried mango slices every afternoon. It felt like a healthier choice: no added sugar, just fruit. But over time, William started waking up lightheaded. One morning, he collapsed trying to get out of bed. His wife noticed his face drooping slightly. At the hospital, he was diagnosed with a small stroke. But the surprise, his medication levels were off the charts, even though his doses hadn't changed. Here's the problem: mango is one of the highest sugar fruits you can buy. Just 1 cup can pack nearly 45 grams of natural sugar, more than a donut. That spike stresses blood vessels and triggers inflammation in sensitive areas like the brain. But there's another twist. Mango contains a natural compound called mangiferin. It may sound harmless, but it interferes with how your liver processes certain medications, especially heart and blood pressure drugs. The result? Medications build up in your system, increasing risks silently. Mango isn't forbidden, but it needs to be eaten mindfully. A few bites, paired with protein or healthy fat, and only during the day, not at night. And if you take prescriptions, talk to your doctor before making mango a daily habit. We've just explored 6 fruits that may be doing more than you ever imagined behind the scenes. And here's the truth: it's not about fear, it's about awareness. As we age, the body changes. What worked in your 40s may need a second look in your 70s. Fruits that once helped you may now need a little tweaking. So here's what to remember: eat fruits earlier in the day in smaller amounts, and pair them with something that balances sugar, like nuts, yogurt, or a small protein snack. And always check with your doctor if you're on medications that interact with common compounds in fruit. Now it's your turn. Did any of these surprise you? Have you experienced changes from your favorite fruits? Let's talk about it in the comments. Share your thoughts or tips. You might help someone else today. And if you want more simple, science-backed insights to protect your brain and heart, don't miss our next video. It could help you make one small change that leads to big health benefits. Thanks for watching. And remember, your best health starts with the smallest habits.